Once you've got your simulation control scheme configured, the next thing you're going to want to do is actually run the simulation. Now the way that you run the simulation is all through these buttons on the top of the screen. One thing that you can do, this was added because of student feedback, is that sometimes the screen gets really cluttered, and there'll be instruments, these virtual instruments dotted over the place, and instructions in another place, and things like that, and it sometimes becomes quite awkward going through all the panels looking for things. So what you can actually do is you can actually pop out these simulation control buttons, and they pop out onto a window that actually floats over everything else. So even if you select other windows, let's say select this one, you can see that the simulation control panel actually stays over the top of it. So it's just a way of not losing your simulation controls and the sort of screen clutter. This will always float over all the other windows. So you can pop that back in just now. The basic way to start a simulation is just to press the run button. And when we do that, the simulation time picks up whatever the current time is and then starts indexing it in real time at 1 second intervals. So you can see that our simulation values are set to whatever they are there. We can manually control the things. So if we look at LIR C001, we can actually close that valve completely. So let's just pull that right down to 0. Actually shutting the valve, so you can see that the level in the tank is actually starting to rise, but the level in the tank will rise pretty slowly because it's a simulation running in real time with realistically sized plant. So you might want to accelerate the simulation, or you might want to make it go even faster. While you're making up your mind, you can press the pause button. What the pause button does is what it says, it just pauses the simulation. You can restart the simulation from any point just by unpausing it, or you can also restart it by pressing the run button, and that will continue where the simulation left off. If you want to make the simulation run faster than real time, you can use the acceleration button, so you can speed it up by ×2, ×4, ×10. Let's try ×40 and we'll unpause the simulation. You can see that the level value is changing very much more quickly now. So let's just stop that. The other thing that you can do is you can actually zip the simulation. Oh, I've just stopped that, which means I've stopped the thing altogether. Okay, which isn't so good. Okay, so what I've done is press the stop button, so I've stopped the simulation completely, so we'll have to restart it and it will go back to the initial value. Let's close this value again. Close the valve rather. All I'm doing here is pressing and holding down the left mouse button on top of this controller button. Occasionally my mouse is causing the thing to stop, but if you keep your finger pressed down, it speeds up until it should eventually get down to 0. And there we go. Okay, so I was talking about acceleration, so we can accelerate the time so that instead of 1 second representing 1 second, it can represent 40 seconds. The other thing we can do is actually zip through the simulation for a fixed time period. What this does is essentially disconnect the simulation clock from running the simulation, and the simulation runs the samples as fast as the computer is able to process them. So if we do 600 samples of zip, so it's 10 minutes of zip. A couple of things happened here. You can see that the level is shot up. It's now actually reached its limits 5, and also these 2 alarms are going off because it's exceeded it. We can cancel these alarms, or accept the alarms rather, just by pressing the enunciators. You can see the enunciators stay lit because we're still up at 5. So let's open this valve. The alarm indications in the controller are also on. Let's open this valve fully to drain the thing down. Oops. Okay, so I'm just opening this thing up to be 100%. There we go. Okay. Okay, so we're up at 100%. The reason that things going so slowly is because I've actually got a decimal in there. Normally I would leave the decimal off it because it's just 0 to 100. Right, so what I was wanting to do now was zip it to take it back down again. So let's zip it another 500 seconds. Well, 600 seconds I think we tried the last time. Who cares? 600 seconds. And oops, you can see that the level has dropped back down. We're down to 1.83. Because the level's dropped below the alarm limits, these alarms have switched themselves back off again. So we can do it again. Let's just change this just now. We won't be able to because the simulation's running. Let's just run that down. And what we'll do this time is just run the thing in acceleration mode so that you can see the alarms kicking in individually. Eventually, when it gets to 0. Right, okay, so let's unpause that and make sure it's on acceleration times 40. Okay, so we've actually gone over the 4, which if you remember we set up as the alarm limit for the high level alarm. So that one's gone off, and the high level, the very high level should go off at 4.5. So we actually just unpause that. Okay. And we've crossed the 4.5 boundary, so the very high level alarm's gone off as well. So that's shown you how simulation control works. We have run, pause, stop, which stops the simulation dead. Once you press that one, when you press run, the simulation will reset itself to the initial steady state. Acceleration allows you to speed the simulation up, and zip allows you to actually batch process a fixed number of samples. Okay, thanks for listening.